that truth which everybody from any part of the world will agree with can be summarized in 3 words. It is, life is tough. Whatever we do, whoever we will be, life is not easy. Life is difficult. And when we face the difficulties of life, if we are of a theistic bent of mind, if we accept the idea of God, then that naturally raises the question, so when I am going through difficulties, when my life is tough, what is God doing? Does God care? Will God help me? The question will naturally come. And this is the question that Arjuna also has at the start of the Bhagavad Gita. So the book that you hold is a book of prayers inspired by the Bhagavad Gita. So there was one young man, he was born in a devotee family and he grew up, and he was telling me that, I don't like to go to the temple. Okay. Can you be moved away from this whole thing? Yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
Desculpa, colega. Desculpa, colega. I will text. No, it's good.
Is this better now? Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you.
So this boy, he told me he had grown up in the devotee family and his parents used to go to temple. He said, I don't like to go to the temple. It happens to many people as they go into teenage, they become a little rebellious, they want to explore the world. So I asked him gently, what is the reason you don't like to go to the temple? So he said, I have so many troubles in my life, but when I go to the temple, Krishna is always smiling. He says, does Krishna even care for me? So I feel as if Krishna lives in a different world, I live in a different world. So the world of bhakti has got nothing to do with my real world. And that's why I don't feel it is relevant at all. So I gave an answer to him at that time, but then later on when I was writing this book, so I was reading at this particular verse and it struck me that here Arjuna is crying. Arjuna is in tears, he's so confused, so overwhelmed. Tantatha kripaya vishtam. And Arjuna is in tears, Krishna is smiling. So this book is basically, I've taken the verses of the Gita and we can see them as sources of wisdom, but we can also see them as the words of Krishna which can inspire devotion and devotional prayers within our hearts. So I'll request some of you to read the prayer. We'll read it aloud. If you have a second mic, we can use that. Otherwise, those of you who have a mic inside your throat, you can use that to speak loudly. But let us begin. You have the book there, but we also have it displayed over here. So you can repeat after me. My dear Lord, let your smiling amid my suffering strengthen my faith, not weaken it. So here, those of you comfortable, you can recite the verse after me. Tamuvacha Rishikesha Prahasanniva Bharata Senayorubhayor Madhye Vishidantam idam vachaha. So here, to give a more devotional connect with the Gita as the song of God, I have tried to translate the Gita's verses into English poetry. The Lord of the senses spoke with a gentle grace, a knowing smile playing upon his divine face. Between the armies standing calm and bright, he solaced Arjuna who was lamenting his plight. So who would like to read any of these lines? Yes, please.
O my Lord, many are the times when I feel lost and lonely, confronted with the perplexities of life. At those times when nothing I do seems to be worth I cannot help but wonder, do you, O Lord, know my plight?
Thank you. Yes, one paragraph. So now, see, for most of us, when we go through life, I use this a little bit writing and drawing a few things. So if we are facing life, normally if we are here and our focus is on the world in front of us, we do certain things here and certain things happen to us. And that's what life is primarily about, or so we think. Now, when either what we are doing is not good enough, I'll just put it not good, or what happens to us is not good, at that time we start getting questions. What is going on over here? That is the time we may look upward. Beyond this world, we may look upward toward Krishna. Can you arrange this in such a way that the TV is also seen? Then we may start looking upward. And normally, when we turn to someone for help, if we are sick and we go to a doctor, now, one thing we want to know, say if our heart is broken because of something, we have great emotional pain, and we go to talk with some therapist, or talk with some friend, or talk with some relative, at that time, one thing we naturally look for is that person actually concerned? So similarly, when we come to Krishna, that question will naturally come, that does Krishna care? Is Krishna concerned about it? So when we look upwards, in general in life, to deal with difficulties, Krishna towards the conclusion of the Gita calls for faith, but he also calls for intelligence. He tells Arjuna in 1863, use your intelligence. Use your intelligence. Intelligence refers to whatever ability we have, whatever skill we have. Use that. But then Krishna also says, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam prajeya, surrender to me. So broadly speaking, everything I speak today will be centered on this 4-quadrant diagram, that on one side is intelligence. By intelligence, I am referring not just to say IQ, I am referring to the use of whatever resources we have. So it could be each of us has particular abilities. It may be software, it may be medicine, it may be music. So we use our intelligence. And then there is faith. The Gita's message is that we actually need to have both. So intelligence is about the human effort. This is we play our part. And faith is about the divine plan. That whatever is happening in my life, there is some higher plan over here. So the human effort and the divine plan. So if you consider these 4 quadrants over here, first there is, if you consider these 4 quadrants moving from the right bottom, so we go clockwise upward. So which is the best quadrant here to be situated in, you think? There's faith that there is a divine plan, that there is something happening according to divine plan, and there is endeavor. We are using our intelligence to put in our effort. So which is the best place to be situated in?
Faith. Top right.
Which quadrant among these? Fourth quadrant, which one? Fourth quadrant, okay? Now this is the, we could say, best. Why is the best? It's not displayed properly? The writing is not clear? Okay. So now, if you consider the end of the Bhagavad Gita, there is an image. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishno Yatra Partho Dhanurdharaha Tatra Shrir Vijayo Bhutir Dhruvani Tirmatir Mama. There he says that where there is Krishna, the supreme mystic, and where there is Arjuna, the great archer, there will be victory. there will be glory, there will be morality, there will be opulence. So now it's interesting what the Bhagavad Gita's conclusion is. At one level we can say wherever there is God, there is victory. Isn't it? Krishna, God is considered to be Lakshmipati. So wherever he is there, the goddess of fortune will be there. So why does the Gita have to mention Arjuna over there? The Gita says wherever there is Krishna, there will be victory. But it says where there is Krishna and where there is Arjuna, there will be victory. Because the point is, the Gita's focus is not just to glorify God. The Gita's focus is not just to proclaim that God is great. It is not just to proclaim God's position, but it is also to transform man's disposition. That yes, God is great, God's plan is there, God will work, therefore we should work with God. That's why Krishna and Arjuna are together. So that's why the end of the Gita is describing, last verse of the Gita is describing this level. Where there is Arjuna who has raised his bow in readiness to fight. That means he is ready to do his endeavor. At the start of the Gita, he had put aside his bow, saying, I will not fight. By the end of the Gita, he has lifted up his bow in readiness to fight. And Krishna is there also. So therefore, at the end of the Gita, both these points are there. Arjuna is ready to endeavor, and Krishna has a plan. Krishna is described as Yogeshwara. He's a mysterious Lord. He will work in ways that we can't figure out. So that's why the Yogeshwara is the Lord of mysticism. The Lord who can do miraculous things. That Lord is also there. So we'll come back to this particular quadrant. Would anyone else like to read? Maybe one of the Prabhus, and we'll have one Mataji. Yes. Would you like to read?
If you do know my suffering, then why do you not step forward to stop it? If instead of stepping forward to help me, I came to know that in those moments you were smiling when I was suffering. Oh Lord, how would I be able to maintain my devotion to you?
Yes. So, now the question comes that this boy was asking the same question we had in the beginning. That if we are going through trouble, if we are going through some devastating problems in life, and if you come to know Krishna is smiling at that, questions come, what kind of person is he? What kind of God is he? And actually that's what Krishna is doing over here. Arjuna is in tears. This is, if we consider, this is 2.10 in the Bhagavad Gita. And this is where Arjuna is, Krishna is smiling. But if we look at the verses before, the first verse, 2.1 is Tam tatha krupaya vishtam ashrupurna kulekshanam. Arjuna is in tears. Arjuna is crying. So, and there is no description that Arjuna has become calm and composed. Arjuna is still, he's speaking, amid his tears he's still speaking. He's trying to make his point, but Arjuna is definitely broken down. It's not that suddenly his mood has changed. So while Arjuna is in tears, how is it that Krishna is smiling? So sometimes, I said life is tough, but what makes it more difficult? There is distress, there is pain in life, but the distress often has degrees to it. No, any kind of pain is a problem. But if the pain is unfair pain, that means that we haven't done anything wrong and still we are suffering. That becomes very difficult to bear. On top of that, if there is unfair pain that we alone are suffering, that feels most unbearable. So, the nature of the mind is that whatever problems we face, the problems, we can't remove them from our life. They are going to come to everyone. However, based on how our mind perceives the problems, the Gita explains that the mind is like a screen inside us. This is the soul, this is the mind is in between, and then we have the body. The body, the mind, and the soul. So this is like a computer system in which we have the hardware, that is the body, the software, that is the mind, and the soul is the user. So now whatever happens in the outer world, that is experienced through the body, but eventually it is experienced at the level of the mind. And sometimes an event may be tiny over here, but when it reaches the mind, it can become huge. It can completely occupy our mind. And conversely, sometimes an event may be huge in the outer world, but when it comes here, it can become tiny. What does that mean? That life determines our problems, but our mind determines the size of the problems. Life determines our problems. We don't control the size of the events out there. But we all have probably noticed that sometimes if we are in a good mood and if somebody does something a little annoying, if we are in a cheerful mood, we feel annoyed, but okay, it's okay. We say, we're supposed to meet somebody at a particular time and we had a good day, and that person has come, got a little late, a little annoyed, but okay, these things happen. But suppose we have had a hard day and our mind is already disturbed, our mind is already irritated, and then somebody is supposed to come on time, they come late. So what happens? When we finally see that person is coming late, we feel as if that person has committed a crime worth capital punishment. Because the mind can make something small very big. And one person who became a devotee was telling me once how he got the realization that his mind was his enemy. That's what made him start searching for spirituality. So he said that whenever he would go to a restaurant, eat food, if it is a restaurant with say 100 seats, he said he could not select a seat without having checked out all the 100 seats. He said, I don't overthink, I'm just thorough. But there is thoroughness, and there is just you can be thorough about pretty small things also, which can make us petty. But then he realized that at one time he went to a restaurant, and the previous time he had sat at a particular seat, and he just couldn't sit on that seat because somebody else was occupying that. And he just went to a restaurant, and it was his favorite delicacy he had ordered, but he said it was like a it was a cupcake, and it tasted like chalk powder to him. He was wondering why it's good. He had gone with some other friend. How is it tasting? He said, it's good. It's great. Then he said that small thing that I couldn't sit on a particular seat, that can make a person extremely angry. The mind is such that it can just make small things very big. I was in Australia one time, one young man came to me and he said that I was complaining about another person constantly. And then I told him, with all due respect, that generally, if anybody starts a sentence with all due respect, that means whatever they are going to speak afterward is not going to be very respectful. So I said, with all due respect, it sounds like you are jealous of that person. Yeah, of course not. I'm not jealous. I'm just extremely unhappy that bad things are happening to me and good things are happening to him. And sometimes some people are so spectacularly self-unaware. And that is the textbook definition of jealousy, isn't it? So sometimes something bad has happened to me, that is a problem. But good has happened to that person, that's a bigger problem. So the point is that the mind can make small things big and big things small. So for all of us, if we are very much controlled by our mind, then small problems can be made very, very big. And this is especially in relationships. If we start feeling that the other person is not taking me seriously, then what happens? We can get irritated. Let's say, if we are disturbed about something and we go and tell someone, and that person just stays calm, no big deal. Why are you so disturbed about it? And first we were disturbed about what happened, and now we are disturbed that the other person is not disturbed. Isn't it? So quite often it is other people's reactions that can make small things big and big things small. And now why am I talking about all this right now? How does this play in our bhakti, in our relationship with Krishna? So something is a big thing for us. And if in our relationship with Krishna we feel Krishna, does he care for this also? If whatever is a big thing for us is not a big thing at all for Krishna, no, that can mean Krishna doesn't care for this thing, Krishna doesn't care for me. If Krishna doesn't care for me, why should I care for him? That can be a question. When I was introduced to Bhakti about 30 years ago, I started talking about it to all my friends, relatives. And one uncle of mine, he said to me that God and I, we have a very good relationship. I said, really? I never heard him do anything connected with God. He never talked about God with me. He says, what is the nature of this good relationship? I asked. He said, mutual non-interference. He's happy there, I am happy here. Now the problem is that, okay, whether God is happy there or not, we do not know. Yes, he's happy there. But we won't always stay happy here. We will have difficulties. And then at that time, we will want God to intervene. And if God doesn't seem to care, then we say, what am I doing over here? Why am I even practicing bhakti? So this is when Krishna is smiling at Arjuna while Arjuna is crying. Naturally, Arjuna will have questions. Can you continue? Who would like to read all the questions? Yes, please.
Bless me to remember, O Lord.
Yes, just wait.
Bless me to remember, O Lord, that you are never smiling because I am suffering. It is through my suffering that I am becoming more open to your calling. You know my pain, you feel my pain, and you want to heal my pain. Indeed, you stand ready and eager to free me from all pain.
Yes. So Krishna being all, let it be, you don't have to do all the time. They can just pass it on. So, now Krishna is all-knowing. That means Krishna also knows our pain. Let's read this sentence together, third line. You know my pain. You can repeat after me. My dear Lord, you know my pain. You feel my pain. And you want to heal my pain. Yes. So Krishna is within our hearts. He's sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishto. He's closer than the closest person to us can be, even if that person holds us in the tightest of hugs. Krishna is inside us, he's close to us. And when we are going through suffering, it is not that Krishna is somewhere up there sending that suffering in our life. But Krishna is with us to give us strength to deal with that suffering, to go through that suffering, and to grow through that suffering. So Krishna wants to heal our pain. Now, there are many different metaphors we may use to understand various concepts. So, if we consider our relationship with God, what is the prominent metaphor in terms of how do we compare or conceive that relationship? So, if we consider a relationship with God, so for example, you consider the Christian tradition. What is the primary way God is addressed? Father. Lord, Father. So, our Father, thou art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. give us our daily bread. So, the metaphor of a parent, that is one metaphor. Now, generally, when you consider the metaphor of a parent, what is the each metaphor that we have, it sets up a certain conception and certain expectations. So, if our relationship with Krishna, with God, in our tradition we know God as Krishna. So one could be that as a father-child, as a parent-child. You could say, now this, what does the parent-child relationship primarily convey? What is when you think of a parent and a child, what is the dynamic of the relationship that comes in?
Love, care,
Unconditional love.
Unconditional love. It's interesting, dependence. I mean, if your parents have loved you unconditionally, you are very fortunate. You know, if you have, I was talking with one boy. He was a young adult actually. So he was telling me that I was staying at their place and he was driving me to various programs here in America itself a few years ago, last year actually. So he said to me, I feel as if my parents don't love me at all. He said, I've been with your parents, I've seen them interact with you. They talked about you with me. They care for you a lot. They definitely love you. He says, yeah. He says, they love a future version of me. And they are simply tolerating me till that future version comes. So that's a very astute observation. And if it is true, it's a sad reality. Sometimes we may also think that our relationship with God is like that. That God will love a future version of me who is a pure devotee. Until then, the way I am conditioned, God is simply tolerating me. Well, it's not like that. God loves who we are and God loves who we can be. We'll talk about so unconditional love, that is, yes, in parenting should it be there? Yes, it should be there. But you can say parenting conveys protection, two things. When a parent-child relationship is there, one is protection, the other is provision. Isn't it? The parents are supposed to protect a person and protect a child, and the parents are expected to provide for the child. Protection and provision are the primary expectations in a relationship. Each relationship will bring a different image. But broadly speaking, that's what. If you see the prayer, it says, Father, give us our daily bread. So it's a protection and provision. So any other metaphors have you heard about for our relationship with God? Yeah.
Best friend.
Best friend, okay. So now what does the idea of a best friend convey? The metaphor of friendship with God, what does it convey?
Support.
Support, okay.
equality,
Equality, okay. Are we equal to God? No, we're not. Openness, yes. We could say proximity. We could say intimacy. Intimacy is the word used in the sexual or physical sense, but it's a very close proximity, isn't it? Like a heart-to-heart relationship. So, is there any reference to this kind of relationship in our tradition also? Suhridam sarvabhutana. Prabhupada would say that word suhrida in 5.29 of the Bhagavad Gita. It refers to the idea of Krishna is our close friend. Krishna is our great well-wisher. So, that idea that God is our friend, this brings us a certain sense of support and as a proximity or intimacy. And sometimes we may train our children, like how Krishna is a cowherd boy, Krishna goes and plays, and children may think of a Krishna also as Krishna is my friend. And there's a great sweetness in that idea. So we don't necessarily expect our friend to solve our problems, but we expect our friend to be with us. To be with us as we deal with challenges. Yes, so friendship is one metaphor. We'll come back to these metaphors again. Any other metaphors? Servant. So Krishna is our servant. Yeah, Krishna is our Lord, our Master. Now, what does this convey? Obedience, yes. So whatever Krishna tells us, we need to obey this. So now this is not the most pleasant metaphor for most of us to conceive that, why should I obey God? That God is the supreme authority. Yes, so that's the same as master or lord. That means we have to obey him. Now this metaphor, it can convey some resentment, especially if we have not encountered authorities who are very pleasant in our life. So the idea is that if our experience with authority figures has not been very cordial, then if why am so much being demanded from me? Do this, do this, do this, do this. So that may not convey some special emotion, and we'll come back to this metaphor. It's an important metaphor. So we could say the first two metaphors, they are positive metaphors. And the third may be functionally right, philosophically also right, but it may not be the most pleasant metaphor. Krishna is our master, Krishna is our Lord, Krishna is our authority. Okay, anything else?
Guru and disciple.
Guru and disciple. Yes, Krishna Mande Jagat Guru, we say. Krishna is the ultimate Guru. So we could use the word Guru, or Guru also means guide. So what do we expect in this relationship? Yeah, I already gave that answer. So guidance. So for example, we may want to hear, if I want to make some decisions in my life, what should I be doing at this time? So sometimes people may look for some signals. This indicates that I should do this indicates I should not do this. So we experience wisdom, we expect wisdom and guidance. Now we don't expect the Guru to necessarily be a magician who solves all problems. What we expect is, okay. Sorry, it's fine, thank you. So any other metaphors?
Forgiveness.
Okay, forgiveness. So then what would be the metaphor over there for that? What kind of relationship is it? It's like a judge. A judge who does not give judgment but gives pardon.
Yes.
Something like that?
Yes.
Yes, so we may have done many wrong things, but it's a judge, but it's like a pardoning or a forgiving judge. So then with that, the expectation is forgiveness, actually. That, okay, I made some mistakes, but my dear Lord, I beg forgiveness from you. Sometimes we may do some atonement, we may do some extra practice, spiritual practices, something that, okay, I want to express my regret for what I did. But the idea is here, we expect forgiveness. It's a good metaphor. Any other ideas of?
Like Priya Pritam, like a beloved, the way Mira looked at Lord Krishna.
Yes. That's it. So there is a lover and there is the beloved Lord. So it may be more in terms of the most intense human relationship is the male-female relationship. So that relationship is also seen as a metaphor for the relationship with God. And especially with Krishna, the highest love of Krishna is with whom? With gopis. Radharani is the topmost gopis. The gopis, there is that relationship based on the principle of divine romance. So now in that relationship, if we consider the Lord to be a beloved, what do we expect?
Everything.
Everything?
Kind of all of the above, from my understanding. I've heard within Madhurya Lila, or within Madhurya Rasa, all of those other components of all the other relationships kind of encompass.
Okay, true. That's there. We'll come to the philosophical aspect a little later. But from an experiential perspective, then normally whenever you think about romance, there may be some romantic movie might be there. So essentially, what happens when there is a lover and a beloved? Stay together, spend time together, basically support.
Each other in hard times.
Okay, that's after you get married. You expect that. I'm talking more at the romantic level. Love. Love means, but how is that love seen? It's it's selflessness. Okay.
Affection.
I think all of you in the right direction. Basically, if you see lovers, what happens to them? They are lost in each other. Isn't it? If you consider Mirabai as a saint, it is absorption. That the person is absorbed in the other person. It's like lost to the world almost. When we are lost in the object of love. That's why the example of the gopis is whatever they are doing, actually the gopis don't really expect a lot from Krishna. They, whatever they do, they are just completely absorbed in Krishna. Vikretu kama kila gopakanya. Even when they churn butter and they have to go out and sell butter, they are going to say butter. Krishna, they want to say butter, curd, but they're so lost in Krishna. They're showing their where? They say Krishna, Krishna, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. So, at the level of this, a person is lost in the Lord. And that's the example of the great saints. They may or may not be in the Madhurya Ras necessarily, but that's also a metaphor where there is a person lost in the Lord. And this is one of the key differences between, say, a friendly relationship, a relationship of friendship, and a relationship of romance. And the key difference is that like two friends, the friends face the world together, hand in hand. But in a romantic relationship, two people are looking at each other and the world is forgotten. So that's a difference. Of course, eventually they have to face the world also. But generally, in a romantic relationship, the focus is on they are lost to the world. The world becomes, just fades into oblivion. So that's also one metaphor. And we could say that is a very elevated state of love. Now for us, we may aspire to be at that level, but it is that we don't get lost in the Lord. Even when we are with the Lord, we get lost in the world. We come to the temple and still we may remember, oh, this politics, this happened, this person said like this to me, and that thing happened over there. Getting lost in the Lord, we may want that, but it's a little far away for us. Okay, thank you. These are all very good metaphors. We'll continue this discussion as we move forward. But any other metaphors before we move ahead?
Surrender.
Sorry?
Surrender.
Surrender. Okay. So what would be the metaphor for that? Is it same as parent and child, or you are having some other metaphor? Yeah, but I'm talking about surrender is what we will do. So it's like I'm talking about a relationship and the result of the relationship in terms of what we expect or what we do. So surrender is you're talking about the second part of the relationship. The surrender will be there in the relationship, but then what would it be? What is the metaphor over there? Ruler, master. So then you could say obedience here can say also surrender. Is that right? Now, you could use that. There's another metaphor which we may not use so often. It is very much drawn from the vision of the Bhagavad Gita, is that life is like a war and Krishna is the commander. Krishna is the commander, and what do we need to do? We need to surrender. So now surrender to the Krishna is not attacking us and we are raising our hand in surrender. That is not the point of surrender. Surrender is we obey the order. There is a higher plan over there. There is a higher purpose over there. There is some, especially if a war is going on. The war is a serious business. There's a lot at stake in a war, and it's important that the person, that the general is competent. Then the soldiers need to cooperate. Soldiers need to surrender. So now, there's one thing about this particular metaphor. This conveys a sense of shared mission. Isn't it? That a shared mission is a commander and a soldier. They're both working together. There's a shared mission over there. Any other metaphors?
Krishna as ultimate goal and we are the achiever?
Krishna is the goal. Well, okay, that's it's not a relational metaphor.
Yeah.
But it's not that Krishna is only there at the end of the journey for us, isn't it? The idea is we have a relationship with Krishna right now also. So related to this, I'll just add one more metaphor. That Krishna is like the doctor. And then we are like the patient. Now what does the patient have to do? Be patient. Well, yes and no. Patient has to be patient, but the patient has to be. If we talk with the doctor, we have to have cooperation. The doctor is telling us do this kind of exercise, eat this kind of food, do this kind of activities. We need to cooperate. So the idea is different metaphors may inspire us or guide us or shelter us at different times. And here when Krishna is smiling and Arjuna is suffering. So why is Krishna smiling? So let's look at the next paragraph over here. Who would like to read this? Who has the mic? Any of the Prabhus would like to read or any of the Vaishnavas? Yes, please.
I will read.
Yes, please. Pass on.
Let me remember your smile amid my suffering as a sign of your confidence and competence, that you can tackle any and every problem, no matter how gigantic it seems to me.
Yes, thank you. That suppose, a person is rushed to doctor because they got a swelling in their body and they think it is cancer. They're scared to death because of that. They go to a doctor and the doctor reads the report, doctor looks at them, the doctor is smiling. Now the smile of the doctor can mean the doctor doesn't care, or the smile can also mean that the doctor is confident that this can be cured. The doctor may stay calm and composed so to assure the patient that this is curable. And that is what the next verse in the Gita begins with. Ashochan Anushochastam. So Jiva Goswami in his commentary to the Bhagavad Gita, he's not written the commentary, but in his comments on the Bhagavad Gita, in Sundarbad he says that the first word that Krishna speaks in the Gita, the first instructive word, is in the second chapter, 11th verse. And that is Ashochan. Ashochan means not worth lamenting, not worth worrying, not worth getting worked up about. And the last instructive word that Krishna speaks in the Bhagavad Gita is Ma Shuchaha. Ma Shuchaha is do not worry. This is actually Krishna giving assurance that I have it. I can handle this. But this is not beyond my control. I know how to handle this. So, Krishna is assuring us, like a doctor at the beginning may say that, oh, this is not worth worrying. And the doctor may explain, okay, this is a disease. This is the problem. This is how it has grown. This is how it may grow in the future. This is how we plan to tackle this. These are the treatments available. And these treatments is how they will lead to recovery. And at the end, the doctor says, don't worry. So Krishna is that kind of doctor. So Ashochan, not worth worrying. Not worth worrying, not worth getting worked up about. Finally it is, don't worry. So in between, Krishna will explain why not worth worrying, how not to worry, or what to do about it. So basically, how to deal with it. Those are the two main things that Krishna will explain in the Gita. That whatever predicament we are facing, that it is not ultimately something which is devastating. It is not something which is the end of the world. Krishna is in control, Krishna can handle it. And that assurance. Now, if you consider in the metaphor of a doctor, there is the doctor's competence, there is the doctor's confidence. It's all important. But even the best doctor cannot work without the cooperation of the patient. If the patient has got sick because of, say, alcoholism, they got liver problems, and the doctor says you have to stop drinking. The patient says, no, I can't stop drinking. But you will die. And the patient says, but at least I'll die happy. Well, then the doctor will not be very happy with that answer. So the patient has to cooperate. But in this case, the cooperation is not simply that the doctor is the boss and you have to obey me. The cooperation is for the good of the patient. So similarly for us, when we are trying to develop our relationship with Krishna, there is this principle that we actually are also active. We also have to play our part. That's why when I went back to this metaphor, this rather diagram, that you know that these 4 quadrants, faith is that Krishna is a competent doctor. And the intelligence is, I have a part to play, let me play my part well. So, when we understand these two things, that Krishna is in charge, Krishna has a plan for my life, I'm not just all alone struggling in this world. But along with that, I have to play my part. So to play my part, I need to play it as well as I can. If I'm a parent, I need to be the best parent that I can be. I'm a professional, I need to be the best professional that I can be. Arjuna was an archer, and Arjuna had to use all the archery expertise that he had acquired throughout his life in the final war that he fought for the service of Krishna. So our intelligence, our ability, even our individuality is not rejected. It is not suppressed. It all is meant to be utilized. So that the human endeavor and the divine plan, they both work together. So now if we look at this particular metaphor, or not this particular diagram, let's look at the other quadrants. So if we are neither using our intelligence, nor do we have faith in any divine plan, what will happen?
Away from.
Yeah, actually, not only stuck, we'll be stuck definitely, we'll be stuck and we'll be struck. Instead, problems will keep worsening in our life. Say somebody is addicted, there's no God, no meaning to life, ultimately. So many of these big atheistic philosophers who were there, most of them couldn't function without drinking heavily. So, life was so unbearably empty for them. They were brilliant at an intellectual level, but life was empty for them. So here it's like we are in a dark place and we are going to go in a darker place. So this is among the 4 quadrants, you could say. This is the worst situation to be in. Why the worst situation over here? Here we will become practically hopeless. We'll become that, okay. Sooner or later we'll become hopeless because there's no higher plan, there's no purpose to my life. And why should I care? I also don't care. I also act recklessly. We all have probably known people who have, by their own actions, made their life worse. Maybe they got into unhealthy habits, maybe they get into unnecessary fights, maybe they just get into negativity unnecessarily. Now, sometimes we may ourselves have lived in this quadrant also. But the point is, this is the worst situation to be in. When a person, like sometimes we ask people, what are you thinking? When they do something rash, when somebody has a good amount of money, when they inherit some money, and they invested in some Ponzi scheme. So you will double your money in 6 months. And their money doesn't get doubled in 6 months, their money disappears in 3 months. So, what were you thinking when you invested your money like this? So, the point is, when we are asking that question, is rhetorical. That means you were not thinking. So we all have experience of people who break their own lives. So now this is a quadrant we don't want to be in. Now what if the first quadrant, what will be our situation over there? If we're using our intelligence, but we don't have faith, any faith that there is a divine plan. What do you think will happen?
The risk of falling down.
Yes. So on one side, as long as things are going positive for us, we will become prideful. Isn't it? That we will, yeah, I am doing so much, I have achieved so much. But it's not that life will always be good. When life starts going down, we will become very resentful. I worked so much, I did so much, why are things not working out for me? Why did everything go wrong? So, this is extreme. But positive, I am so great. Or, my life is so terrible. That's why we'll have this wild oscillation. So now if we have only faith that there's a divine plan, but we are not using our intelligence, we are not making our endeavor, then what will happen? We will not succeed. Yes, that is true. We may become reckless. In the name of bhakti, in the name of faith, we will become careless. We will become reckless. Now this is not healthy. Sometimes there are very great saints who do not care for the world. But they actually do not care for the world because they care so much for God. In our case, it's not that we care so much for God, it's just that we don't want to take trouble of dealing with the world. Then if we are not putting in our endeavor, if you see Srila Prabhupada, at the age of 70, he travelled all alone to come to America. And the amount of endeavor he put in, every single day he would barely sleep 2-3 hours. He would be writing his books, talking with people. He would work extremely hard. So this certainly, it's not that only bhakti means no endeavor. It is best that we have our endeavor and we have God's plan. So what will happen by this is, we will be faithful, actually because there is faith, and we will also be using our intelligence. So this is what the place where we will be purposeful. That my life always has a purpose. My life always, even if my particular plan is not working, Krishna, but you have a plan. And your plan is working, even when my plan is not working. So with our intelligence, we will make our plans. And we'll try to do the best we can. But we understand that even when my plan doesn't work, Krishna's plan will be working. So we will be hopeful, we will be purposeful. We will never become resentful, we will not become prideful. So we play our part and we know that Krishna will be playing his part. So this purposeful, what does it mean over here? When we understand that, okay, there's a doctor who is treating me, the doctor is competent, I have confidence. Then, okay, this is the kind of food I want to eat. This is the kind of things I will not do. So we will also be playing our part. We will be purposeful. And being purposeful in this way, what does this mean? We'll talk about this more in tomorrow's session. But I'll make one last point over here about what is the nature of this state when we are purposeful in Krishna's service. What it means is that we use our intelligence and we work diligently. We make our plans. We observe ourselves. See what are the gifts that I have? What are the talents that I have? What is the place I am? And we'll talk about all this more tomorrow. But in this situation, what will happen to us is that we will have our plans. We'll hold our plans. But we understand that there is Krishna and he has his plans. We hold our plans lightly. And we hold our Lord tightly. Unfortunately, sometimes even when we practice bhakti, We may come to a temple, we may practice bhakti, we may chant the holy names, but what happens is, we hold our plans tightly. And because we hold our plans tightly and the plans don't work, then what happens is, we hold our Lord lightly. That we don't want these two things to happen. That we hold our plans lightly, we hold our Lord lightly. And hold our plans lightly means we do our endeavor. We plan and try to the best of our capacity. At the same time, if my plan is not working, that does not mean nothing is working. Even when my plan is not working, Krishna's plan is working. And with that understanding, we can go through the most difficult of situations in life. Where our intelligences can work, we use our intelligence to make things work. But where our intelligence doesn't work, we don't lose hope. We keep moving forward. Now how to move forward, how to hold our plans and how to hold our Lord. That will be the topic of the discussion tomorrow. Let's look at the last sentence, last paragraph over here. Who would like to read this? Yes, please. You have read once, isn't it? Anyone has not read one? Yes, please.
May your smiling face, O Lord, never reduce my faith in your magnanimity. Let it always reinforce my faith in your capability.
Yes. So when the Lord is smiling, and the Lord is dancing, and the Lord seems to be happy, that is not that the Lord doesn't care. It's not that He is not magnanimous. It is that He is capable and He is confident of His capability. That Krishna has things under control. Even when things seem to be wildly veering out of control for us, Krishna has things in control. Krishna's plan is still working. That understanding can give us faith in all situations, even when our intelligence and our plan doesn't work. So I'll summarize what I discussed today. The topic was finding strength in hard times. So when we talk about this theme of finding strength in hard times, today was the first part. We continue the second part tomorrow. But the first part I discussed about how normally when do we turn towards God? It is when life becomes tough. Normally we are caught in the world. What I do in the world and what the world does to me. But when both of them seems to be not good, that's when we turn towards God. So generally we turn towards God in times of need. So in these times of need, when we turn towards God, we turn with a certain expectation. And the expectation is based on the metaphor. The metaphor for our relationship, or rather metaphor for our conception of our relationship with God. So we discussed many metaphors that, remember the metaphors? One was the parent, then authority, then friend. Any other metaphors? Yeah, this is the last metaphor. Doctor. Judge. Judge. Commander. Lover. Master, authority, friend. Teacher, guide, guru. And the last metaphor we discussed was doctor. Now each of these metaphors has their value. Each of these metaphors is important in their own way. And each metaphor will set a particular expectation from God. The vision of the Bhagavad Gita is that at the end we discussed how Krishna is actually asking Arjuna to raise his weapons and fight. So the Gita's conclusion, the Gita's mood, or Gita's metaphor is actually that both come together. That there is the human endeavor, That is our intelligence. I'm using intelligence, mere ability. We humans are meant to make an endeavor. And it's also that there is faith. Faith that there is a divine plan, that I am not lost in life. It's not just I alone trying to struggle and face life. So the Gita's, this fourth quadrant is where the Gita wants us to be. 1817 we talked about. This is where we can be purposeful in our life. And now, if we have neither, we're not using our ability nor are we having faith, then we'll be hopeless. We'll be in a dark situation, going darker. If we are having our intelligence and doing our endeavor but don't have faith and higher plan, what will happen? You remember? Yes, we'll either become prideful or, yes, if things don't work out, we'll become resentful. If we have only faith but we're not doing our part, then we'll be? Yes, we'll be reckless, we'll be careless. In the name of faith, we'll become negligent of our part. So we want to be purposeful. And this purposefulness, what is the basis of this purposefulness? There's one sentence that conveyed that. Hold our plans. Yes, we make our plans, we do our endeavor, we hold our plans lightly, we hold our Lord tightly. So this is the essence of bhakti, that in many ways, if you want to put it this way, our sadhana, that is how we hold our Lord tightly. And the rest of our life, everything that we do, we may have some seva in the temple, we may have family responsibilities, we have our professional responsibilities. We do our part diligently. When I say lightly, that doesn't mean careless. We're still holding on to that. But lightly means it's more in comparison. We don't hold on to our plans in the world more tightly than we hold on to the Lord. So if we have this vision, our intelligence is important, but faith in Krishna is just as important, in fact, more important. So we hold on to our Lord tightly while we make our plans and we hold our plans lightly. So how to do that, that we'll discuss in tomorrow's session. Let's conclude by offering this prayer once again. This last or the starting prayer you offered. My dear Lord, let your smiling amid my suffering strengthen my faith, not weaken it. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Do we have time for questions? Yes. Are there any questions or comments? Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for this enlightening class. I had a question related to this topic, today's topic. Most of the devotees present here in this congregation are from India or Indian subcontinent. Now, the recent events have made us all very uneasy in the sense that there is this feeling that as if the whole world is turned against us. How do we tackle this? That's my question.
Yeah. The feeling that the whole world is turned against us. I think one reason is India is also geopolitically rising now. India is, if nobody considers us to be a threat, then is that a good thing? Maybe it is, but maybe it is that nobody considers us only then. Yes. So, that's also a possibility. In general, for each one of us, the Gita talks about our Swadharma. That each one of us has a part to play. in the Swadharma, in the Loka Sangraha. Loka Sangraha is the maintenance of the world. So each one of us plays a role. Now some roles may become more prominent at certain times. So for example, if somebody is in disaster prevention, at normal times, okay, that's just one department. But when a disaster strikes, their role will become the most important. Somebody is a doctor, yeah, their role is normally important, but if there's a pandemic, their role becomes even more important. Mm-hmm. So, soldiers, their role is very important. But when there is a war, their role becomes even more important. So, sometimes in the way the world moves, the importance of certain roles becomes very evident. But in the normal course of life, we all have a tendency to devalue the roles that we are playing. So it's important for us that to recognize that every one of us has a part to play. And whatever be our kshetra, whatever be our sphere of influence, so each one of us around us has a kshetra. Kshetra is our sphere of influence. Some people may have a huge kshetra. Say somebody is a billionaire who funds political parties. They have much bigger kshetra. Somebody who is the head of state of a country. They have much bigger kshetra. Our kshetra will be small. But the small kshetra does not mean it's worthless. That does not mean it's insignificant. So we do our best in the kshetra that we are in. So generally speaking, in the world, as I said, there is, so another way of putting these two things, there is intelligence and there is faith. So another way of understanding this is there is Shakti and there is Bhakti. So Hanumanji, his hands are folded. That indicates his Bhakti. But in those folded hands, he has a mace. That is Shakti. So both these are required in life. So for every one of us, whatever be the role we are playing right now, if we learn to play it more competently, we become more responsible, we become more diligent, we become more successful, then our kshetra may increase. Rather than worrying too much about what is happening in somebody else's kshetra, we need to focus on our kshetra. Now of course, if we can contribute to somebody who is in the kshetra where a lot of things are happening, we should contribute. So, for example, one way Indians outside India can contribute is that Indians generally outside India are respected as successful, responsible citizens. So, there are various ways in which the advocacy groups can be formed. We can basically, like when you say the world has turned against us, okay, maybe the world has turned against us, but are we telling our side of the story? Is it simply because somebody is telling our story and we are not telling our story at all? So it's our responsibility that we also share our side of the story. Not in an aggressive way, not in a judgmental way. In general, in Tamoguna and Rasa, there are three, I'll conclude this answer with one last point, that whenever there is a problem, there are three gunas. There is Sattva, there is Rajas, and there is Tamas. So in Tamas, whenever there is a problem, we focus that I am a victim. Oh, life is so bad to me. Things are so many bad things are happening to me. In Tamas, the focus goes on being a victim. In Rajas, the focus goes on finding a villain. That it's not just I am a victim, but who is the person who is messed up with my life, who has ruined my life, and I'm going to deal with this person. So Rajas and Tamas are very related, because if the villain is too powerful, then again we go down to the victim level. But it is the mind gets caught induced to things. Somebody out there is hurting me. Oh, I'm in so much pain. I'm hurt so much. Is it possible that we could be a victim? Of course. Sometimes life victimizes us, sometimes people victimize us. Is it possible that there could be villains out there? Of course it's possible. But the point is, it is when we fixate on those things, that's when life becomes unnecessarily dark. We cannot afford to fixate on those things. So what we fixate on. Now, when we are in Sattva, we try to cultivate a vision. Vision, like what is actually happening? What is in my control? What can I do? What can I not do? This is the level karmanye vadhikaraste ma palishu kadachana. Not that we don't care for the result, but we don't fixate on the results. What is the vision where I can do some things? There are certain things which I can do, and let me do those things. So the vision that inspires us to action. Action, some concrete action. Now beyond this, of course, there is the Shuddha Sattva. Shuddha Sattva is the level of bhakti where we focus on Krishna as the supreme victor. Krishna is a victor, and the message of the Bhagavad Gita is not just that Krishna is the supreme hero. The message of the Gita is that in the service of the supreme hero, each one of us is also meant to become a hero. Now, Krishna wanted Arjuna to fight and get the glory. So Krishna wants us also to do that. So we may or may not get glory in the world's eyes. Not everybody can get that. But we all can play our part, and that will be considered valuable by Krishna in his service. So see what we can do and focus on doing that. Okay. Thank you. That's true.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, you start your class with 3 words. Life is tough.
Yeah.
My question is life is tough? Is it subjective? And third part of it is it with our intelligence we can pass through these things? Because, yeah, I think I have completed my question.
Okay. Yeah. So, is life really tough, or is it a matter of subjectivity? Well, as I said, subjectivity is definitely part of it. You remember I talked about how sometimes the problem might be small, but our mind can make it very big. So our mind is here. My computer is making a small problem big now. Okay, so this is my mind. There could be a big problem that can become small in my mind, and there can be a small problem that can become big in my mind. So the idea is that there is a subjective element to it, no doubt. But beyond the subjective element, there's objective reality also. If, for example, the temperature is very low. One time I was in Washington. I woke up very early. I wanted to do my mantra chanting. So I woke up and looked at the temperature. It was 14 degrees. But okay, I'll go out for a walk and I'll chant. It was around 3 o'clock, 3:15. But I'll go out for a walk and I'll chant. I started chanting, and I found that within a few minutes, my fingers were freezing. The steam coming from my mouth. I had gone a little distance away from the temple, and what's wrong? This is not 40-degree effect. And I looked at my phone. Somehow I had opened up. I was busy. I had forgotten. I had not noticed the minus sign. So it was minus 40 degrees. So the point is it a matter of subjectivity? No, it's objective. A 14-degree experience and minus 14-degree experience is going to be hugely different. Now, if the weather is cold, somebody can make that objective reality subjectively also worse. Oh, it's so cold, it's so cold, it's so cold, it's so cold. They can keep complaining about it. And then people around them will say, oh, what you're saying is so old, so old, so old. Get over it now. Learn to live with it. So yes, there is a subjective element to it undoubtedly, and we can try to minimize that. But to say everything is subjective, that is not reality. There is an objective reality. We do grow old. Like sometimes in sports, people may say that, oh, age is just a number. That age is just a number, but that number has our number. Isn't it? So sometimes you may say an athlete at the age of 40, some tennis player, some cricket player, performs spectacularly. We appreciate that because that's extraordinary. And even that athlete at 40 might do very well, but that won't be at least still not as swift as when they are 20 or 25 or 30. So there is an objective reality. So when we're dealing with the problem of pain in life, there are two extremes. One is to consider it only objective. That means I'm suffering so much in life, and my life is so objectively somebody who's living, say, in a very comfortable house as compared to somebody who's living in maybe somebody living in a tent. Objectively, there's a huge suffering, huge difference. But is it only objective? There were 10 people living in a tent, and their states of mind may be different. So pain is not only objective. The other is to make it only subjective. So in general, the Western approach, to some extent, has been to focus only on the objective side of pain. The idea was through science and technology, we'll make so much progress. We will remove all discomforts in life. And we have succeeded spectacularly. We have got comforts and conveniences now that we can't imagine at all. Or at least people 50 years ago could not have imagined. That were not available even for royalty 50 to 100 years ago. So the Western approaches make all suffering only objective and remove that suffering. But despite having spectacular amount of comforts, what is the result? We are comfortably, there's a huge amount of comfort in the Western world, but we are comfortably miserable. Why? Because when the objective level has been addressed, the subjective level has been neglected. The subjective level has become far worse. Now, on the other hand, in the Eastern thought, especially to some extent in Indian thought, suffering was all considered subjective. And that led to objective level reality deteriorating. I mean, very simplified analysis over here. It's that there were so many invaders who came and conquered India. And when that happened, often the attitude, not of all the warriors, but many of them, this world is ultimately Maya, these things keep happening over here. We have to go beyond the world. No, but even Maya, Krishna comes to establish Dharma in the world of Maya. Dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So to consider all suffering to be only subjective, it's all a state of the mind. And just live with it, tolerate it, transcend it. No, that can make us subject to unnecessary objective suffering. So, what is the understanding? That there is an objective level to suffering and there is a subjective level to suffering. So, subjective level of suffering we deal by strengthening our mind, by purifying our mind, and that's definitely required. But along with that, Dharma is also about making social arrangements, practical arrangements. So the objective level, both have to be addressed. When Krishna comes to the world, for example, when Sita has been abducted by Ravan. Ram doesn't think, it's all subjective. Whether she's with me or he's a Ravan doesn't matter. Krishna doesn't tell when Kamsa is persecuting people. Say, it's all sab man ka khel hai. Everything is a play of the mind. Whether you are in a prison or whether you're in a palace, it doesn't make any difference. This world is just a place of mind. Krishna comes to fix things at a physical level also. But of course, we cannot fix things permanently at the physical. They'll get unfixed. Sakale neham hata yogo nashta bharat. That's why for us, the objective, when you say objective is the, you can say physical level. Subjective is the mental level. It is for us, we want to fix things at the objective and the subjective levels, but both are for ultimately raising ourselves to spiritual level. So as much as we can, we try to fix things at the objective level. As much as we can, we try to fix things at the subjective mental level. But ultimately, we have to rise to the spiritual level. Okay.
A small follow-up question. What's the root cause of the life is tough?
What is the root cause of life is tough? That is a tough question. Well, in India we have this service called IAS. It's a very tough exam to pass. So basically, the suffering in life falls in three categories. There is suffering which is inevitable. It is just the nature of the world. For example, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Doshan Darshan. Krishna talks about in 13.8 to 12 that these are just inevitable. Everybody will have to grow old. Everybody will get disease. Maybe not the same disease, but everybody will have deal with disease sooner or later. There is inevitable suffering. And that is just the nature of the world that we are in. So we are spiritual beings, we are caught in the material world. And because of that, there is some suffering you just have to accept. Like a patient is sick, whether you are in the hands of a good doctor or a bad doctor, there is some suffering that is unavoidable till the disease gets cured. So that's one level of suffering. The other is avoidable suffering. Avoidable is more self-created suffering. Krishna says, for example, 5:22, yehi samsparsha ab hoga dukkha yonayevati. So for example, somebody becomes an alcoholic, drinks and becomes an alcoholic, and then they suffer various problems. That is self-created suffering. That is something which we should avoid. That cannot be called as a part of life's toughness. That is our own foolishness. That's not life's toughness. Then there is suffering that is strengthening. There is suffering that helps us become a better person. There is suffering that helps form our character. This is what Krishna talks about in 1837 in the Bhagavad Gita. This is yattadagre vishamiva pariname amritopamam. That which is in the beginning like poison will eventually become like nectar. So for example, if somebody wants to become healthy, they want to become fit, and they go to a gym and do a workout. That is suffering, but it's good. Somebody wants to learn a new language. It's difficult. But after that, a whole new universe will open for them. Similarly, when we try to grow spiritually, we try to fix our mind on Krishna, we try to develop love for Krishna, we do sadhana. That's tough. But when that toughness we accept so that we can rise to a better place, we can become better. So it's like, with respect to the disease metaphor, you're sick, some problems are inevitable, some pain is inevitable. But if somebody is diabetic and they eat a lot of sweets and their insulin level spikes again, that is avoidable suffering. That they need to avoid. But if somebody is diabetic and they need to change their taste, so then that is developing a different taste, that is strengthening suffering. So there are different kinds of sufferings, and depending on what the source of the suffering is, or what the starting point of suffering is, we need to address it accordingly. Okay. Yeah. Yes, we have a question. The other Vaishnavis have questions. Yes,
Me?
yeah, please.
No, I'll ask it.
Oh, is it? Okay. Anyone else have any questions?
If that's it, then let's give a round of applause. Yes, please. Thank you for sharing the wisdom and actually with us. And actually, tomorrow will be next program, but it will be home program, and Sunil will give us some details about the home program tomorrow with Caitanya Charan.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll just quickly talk about two things. First is about tomorrow's program. So I'll be talking about two main things there. What is the need to make our plans? And how do we make our plans? What does that mean practically? So regarding your question about our swabhava and our swadharma, our nature, understanding our gifts, and how do we use our gifts in Krishna's service? So how do we maximize our Shakti? That will be one part of the session. And then how do we maximize our bhakti? How do we strengthen our faith? So both these aspects we'll be discussing in tomorrow's session. So one is self-observation, look inward. Look inward and look outward to see how we can make our maximum contribution, and then look upward to see how we can play a part in Krishna's plan. So today was a little more analytical, philosophical kind of session, but tomorrow I'll be discussing something from the Mahabharata. We look at how the Pandavas, their lives emerged. So that will be in tomorrow's session. I already talked about this book, Prayers Inspired by the Bhagavad Gita. So there are 122 prayers over here. Do we have an open book? So basically for me the Gita's verses are not just sources of wisdom. Many of the Gita's verses are like friends for me, personal friends who we turn to. Like you want to know our friends in different contexts so that we can get to know them better. So through this, in this chapter, in this book I have brought the Gita's verses as sources of prayer, and there are 122 prayers with each prayer is like a spiritual affirmation. So there are prayers when we are feeling lost and directionless. There are prayers when we are in great pain. There are prayers when we are feeling our cravings rising and becoming unbearable. There are prayers when we are feeling lonely or misunderstood. So many people have told me that this also helps them in their chanting. Because just before you do your mantra chanting, just look at one prayer, look at one picture of Krishna, read one affirmation, read the prayer. So this is one book that is available, Prayers Inspired by Bhagavad Gita. And the other is, so I've written some 30 books, but I brought 2 new books this time. This is Gita for the CEO. Nowadays there is a lot of interest in the corporate world for wisdom from ancient times that can be relevant today. So from Greek, Stoicism is very popular. The daily Stoic is quite widely known. From Japan, Ikigai is quite becoming well known. HarperCollins are the biggest publishers in the world. So they asked me to write on the Bhagavad Gita. So like I was drawing some simple diagrams. So there are many places where there are conceptographics explaining the concepts of the Gita. And I have presented this as a conversation. The Gita originally is a conversation, but this is presented as a conversation between 2 people. One who knows the Gita and one who wants to know the Gita. Both of them are corporate leaders. And this is not just a book for CEOs. It is a book for anyone who has any leadership role, formal or informal. So it's also a good book that you may want to give to your friends or colleagues who may not yet be ready to read the Gita directly or connect with it. But this might trigger their spiritual curiosity. Both these books are available, and there are 10 principles in this Gita for CEO. Now, how to learn to be more mindful. Today, much of what I discussed more a devotional frame today. But that life determines our problems, we determine their size. There's a chapter by that title. So how our perspective can be changed by spiritual wisdom, that's explained. And then how also, if you tap the power of speech, we all feel, why don't people listen to me when I tell them some good things? So how to discipline our speech, there's a whole chapter on that. Words shape words. Watch your words. So like that, there are 10 practical and empowering principles based on the Bhagavad Gita. So both these books will be here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. I want to make a quick announcement. As Prabhuji said, there is a home program tomorrow, and it is at 4326 Golden Highway,